Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's episode is titled Discernment versus Arrogance, Another Brick in the Wall for November 29th, 2020, Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll say a nice, hearty Thanksgiving welcome to everyone. I am Jason Cripps. I'm part of the panel here on TSL. I'll also introduce my lovely bride now, Jen.
Jen Cripps.
Yeah, Jen Cripps.
Jennifer Cripps.
How are you, Jen?
I'm doing pretty good.
No, good. How does it feel?
A little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'm hanging in there. How does it feel to be your wife?
Yeah, how does it feel to be married to me?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
She's saying that just because we're on the air.
No.
You should see how she talks to me behind the scenes.
It's even sicker because it's so much more lovey-dovey.
It is lovey-dovey. It would probably drive people crazy. They get sick to their stomach. Thanks for being here, Jen.
You're welcome.
You're kind of a captive audience, though. Because, we live in the same place, so
yeah.
It would be hard for you not to join.
That's true.
Sorry about last week, guys. Feeling a little bit, Jen was feeling a little bit under the weather, not just blaming her. We also had just gotten married. So we kind of had stars in our eyes when we thought about doing a broadcast and decided at the last minute, well, not really last minute, a couple hours before, that we were going to just take last weekend off. So we apologize for any inconvenience. So we're just picking up where we left off with the regularly scheduled program for you guys tonight. So I appreciate your patience. And again, sorry for the inconvenience. Also tonight we have our producer, illustrious producer, and the writer of these first four shows, Glenn. Glenn from Australia. How are you tonight, sir?
Well, thank you. And no turkeys have been killed in the making of this production.
Now, people may not understand this. I mean, maybe they do, that Thanksgiving is an American holiday. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But I don't think any other countries celebrate Thanksgiving. Do they celebrate anything like that there in Australia?
Nope. But I see that the Black Friday sales have sort of insidiously crept into our situations here. So now that whilst there's no Thanksgiving, it's just another Black Friday commercialism.
Oh yeah, well yeah, yeah. Commercialism isn't stopped at the border here in the West for sure. So yeah, so Black Friday. That's good to know that you don't have Thanksgiving Day, but you have Black Friday. That's good.
Well, yeah, because Thanksgiving for the U.S. is about it being discovered. You know, the Indians and the Pilgrims. Right. So is there any kind of holiday, Glenn, for Australia being discovered?
Australia Day.
Australia Day.
January, but it's contentious because you've got on one side you have the whites, and then you have the indigenous who see it as an invasion. So you can understand. You've probably got things in Canada, US like that where there's pros and cons. Put it that way, arguments for and against.
Sure, and in fact, there are people, millennials mostly. There are people out there today that want to change the name of Thanksgiving to like Indigenous Massacre Day or something like that. They're bemoaning the massacre of the Indians. I mean, it's like the Thanksgiving Day, things went well, you know, the first Thanksgiving, so to speak, and then things were well for another 100 years after that. But then things kind of I can't think of the word. They
deteriorated?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. They deteriorated. Such a hard word to say or remember for me, apparently. But they want to make it seem like, okay, there was just Thanksgiving Day, and then things really, really got bad quickly. But it was a long time, historically speaking. But anyway, we have a lot of that here, you know, talk about people coming into America and upsetting the apple cart for the Indians and things like that, or the Native Americans. I think that's politically correct to call them that.
Yeah.
Um, but in Australia too, didn't it start out as a place to pop the British prisoners? Isn't that how it started out? Is that accurate historically?
Yeah, dumping ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but things have, I'd say, in terms of Indigenous recognition, it's certainly become more aware, because now if you've got like large sporting matches, they will pay, or they will give acknowledgement to the tribal owners of the particular land that it's being held on. So they're going part of the way. I don't think they've gone
Right.
far enough, but at least they are acknowledging,
Right.
that there's two sides to the story, which is good.
Sure. That is good. Here, their form of acknowledgement would have been to put all the Native Americans on the reservation, and they're I think still to this day they're very much undercut and exploited. They did their part to try to give them all a casino, so they can make money, and very impoverished and alcohol ridden and things like that. So it didn't turn out too well for them. It still hasn't really changed much, but that's not what the topic is for tonight. But before we get on to the subject, I would want to ask everyone how their Thanksgiving was, and we could tell you a little bit about what we did. Jen, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. About what we did?
Yeah.
Well, we went up to Virginia to see my family and stayed there for a couple of days. Got to do puzzles with my mom and help her put up the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And had some amazing smoked turkey and other foodie goodies.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Got to be around the bonfire with my brothers and their families and drink some wine. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And I went off. I've been on the keto diet. I went off the diet for a couple of days, and I'll tell you what. I've been doing this as part of my nutritional style for a long time, and I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to to eating like that. We eat intermittent fasting and eat pretty much once a day, maybe a snack or something, and I like that. I've gotten used to not having carbs, and then over the past couple of days having so many carbs and had to take a nap, and it's just
Carb
weird.
overload.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
weird.
tired early, and I don't know. I'm excited to get back to it, but on my end, it was great to go up with Jen and be with her family and stuff, and I felt very welcome, and it was just a good time. So moving past that, so it was a great Thanksgiving, and I hope all of your Thanksgivings were well. And while we're talking about that, since all the introductions are finished, let's say hello to the chat, because a few people have said hello. Jen, if you'd like to.
Yeah. Okay, we got Celine. Hey, Celine. We have BB Truth, Glenn, of course, Nathan, Janet, our lovely Janet,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's it so far.
Okay. Yeah, BB Truth.
Hey, guys.
Said hello to you. Said hello to you and Janet first.
Yes.
Just say hello to me too, but it was after.
Hey, there's Golgotha.
Hello, sir. Welcome. Do they celebrate? I forget where he is. He doesn't live here in America. I was going to ask him if they celebrate Thanksgiving where he is. And Daryl just popped in. Hello, Daryl. Thank you for showing up. Somebody mentioned they do celebrate Thanksgiving in Canada, but it's earlier on. I think Daryl told me that too, a little bit earlier on. So we just want to thank all you guys for coming. We didn't expect too big of an audience tonight, just simply because it's still the holidays, but we wanted to be with whoever wanted to show up, especially since we didn't go ahead with the broadcast last week. So again, thank you for being here tonight. So we'll try to say hello to everyone that pops in when they do, but we want to get started with this. So tonight's topic is discernment versus arrogance, another brick in the wall. And just as a reminder, Glenn is the writer of the first 4 shows. We will be switching off Jen will do 4, I'll do 4. We may do them together. We haven't decided that yet, but it's a good way to give Glenn a break. He does enjoy writing the shows, and we enjoy him doing them, because then as the host, I can just concentrate on that. And we want it to be autonomous. And Matthias did teach us how to do OBS, and I think Glenn has a good handle on it now. So he's doing the production. We appreciate that as well. So it'll give him a little bit of a break. He won't have to put so much time into writing the shows, but we do appreciate that. So this is the second one in the 4-show series written by Glenn. So just when I'm reading it, just remember it from his perspective. I'm not going to try to do his accent or anything, but just
do it.
I should try that. I probably could pick it up. Discernment versus Arrogance, another brick in the wall. Welcome again to TSL and the second show in this series. Our thanks and appreciation go to Janet for her ideas and input. Pink Floyd's Night Tonight. The lyrics speak for themselves. And we did include the link. We don't want to get a copyright strike. One of my favorite bands of all time, coincidentally, but not worth getting a strike. So when you get a chance, if you haven't heard it, or if you have heard it and enjoy it, go over and click the link and read the lyrics too. That would be helpful. Continuing on from last week, we're focusing on the daily and weekly preacher-teacher videos. There's a swag of channels delivering their message, and many of them have something in common: the use of labels. You've all heard the words Lordship, lost, false converts, stupid demonic bastard, heretic, devil, witch, easy believism, Greasy Grace, McGospel, etc. Need I go on? We are going to ask, are these labels another brick in the wall of dark sarcasm in the classroom? Definitions. Discernment is the capability of a person to process and disseminate relevant information in a respectful yet forthright manner. Arrogance is sharing one's viewpoint and assumptions, either intentionally or otherwise, from a place of superiority and pride. Label is a generic tag applied for various reasons to a person or to a group of people who have been classified as being of like minds or views. Sure, it's understood that labels can be used effectively for private assessment. However, when labels are effectively actively promoted, encouraged, and used in public forums, some as a direct takedown of others, are they a brick around the neck of the user? In life, spouse, partner, children, parents, friends, etc., is this labeling attitude as acceptable as it is in the quote free grace unquote community? If not, why not? When labeling, where might discernment end and arrogance begin? Is it actually possible to share constructively and inclusively without the use of labels? To this point, it's all been about the labeler. Is the constant use of labels based on altruistic and authentic motives, or is it simply an ego-based method of segregation into those who agree with me are fine and those who don't agree with me are going down? Whatever the motivation, the person or group at the end of the line, the person or group at the end of the line is the labeled. That makes more sense. Has anybody using these words considered the potential effect it might have on another? The isolation, the vulnerability, the lack of acknowledgement. It is a case of the end justifies the means. Is it a case? Is it a case of the end justifies the means? Or another way, do you have to be cruel to be kind? Maybe the labeler believes they are doing you a favor. Maybe you are just a number on a board. Maybe it's a label of love. Who am I to second guess another person's intent? All I see are the results, and it's none too pretty. Following is a statement from a person so labeled. See what you think. Abridged. If they think I am trusting on my works instead of grace, they still treat me with respect. It is not a big deal. I just believe we disagree on interpretation and that they do not understand my life. Maybe my words are not clear. or they think I am not able to see my own life as clear as they do. But if and when I hear LS are proud, fearful idiots believing XYZ, trying XYZ, motivated by XYZ, you get the picture. Only God knows if someone will end up in hell. It is not a vicious anger toward them, but a frustration to want to be considered as a sister who cannot be united with them. God hates discord, so the Holy Spirit in me feels grieved when I experience this false representation. The Spirit in me wants togetherness, and when I am spoken of as an evil works bastard, well, it does not give me warm fuzzies. The words you speak become the house you live in. How do you pronounce that, Glenn? Hafez? Hafiz. Sorry, my apologies for screwing that up.
Yeah, Hafiz, I would say.
Hafiz. Okay.
He's
Thank you for listening. Hafiz.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. This leads us now to a quick synopsis of next week's show, Doubt versus Decision. Please check out the song and the lyrics. May the joy of pop ring loudly. And the link is included there for you guys to look at for next week. Breathe a sigh of relief. We're not touching the fiery topic of doctrine land doubt. Instead, we are visiting life and the results that come from when, as the lyrics say, I'm only sure that I'm not sure. Are life relationships artificially sweet? If so, why? What is possible? What is real? What is true? What is illusion? So that's next week. All right. Doubt versus decision next week. So thank you for that, Glenn. Thank you for an excellent write-up. And this is a good start. We have a lot of questions to go with here. And Glenn, since you did the write-up, I'll ask you, last time, it was 2 weeks ago, but last time, where would you like to start tonight?
With the image on the screen.
All right. I'm looking at the screen.
Okay, so
there it is.
Well, basically, we've gone to we're asking really where do labels fit the equation here, and I'll move it on to the next image. Bear with me. Here we go. We've got the definitions. I think everyone's pretty well got a handle on it. Move on. There we go. Questions first.
All right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, over to you.
All right. So we've kind of gone over the different definitions. We have discernment. I'll just read them again very quickly. Discernment is the capability of a person to process and disseminate relevant information in a respectful yet forthright manner. Arrogance is sharing one's viewpoint and assumptions, either intentionally or otherwise, from a place of superiority and pride. And a label is a generic tag applied for various reasons to a person or to a group of people who have been classified as being of like minds or views. All right, so into the questions. First question that we'll ask for the panel. In life, spouse, partner, children, parents, friends, etc., is this labeling attitude as acceptable as it is in the free grace community? If not, why not? Now, for those of you in the chat, please feel free to answer this question yourselves as well. And if you want one of us to read it, just do me a favor and put it all in caps so we can see it. Now, I will be looking at the chat from time to time to see your comments. And as always, we do want you guys to be involved as much as you want to be. So if you have any other questions or comments unrelated to what we're talking about, that's fine too. All right. So does anyone want to start with this one? In life, spouse, partner, children, parents, friends, etc., is labeling attitude as acceptable as it is in the free grace community? If not, why not?
I'd say no.
Okay.
Well, I guess define what the free grace community is. Are you talking about like online?
Yeah, online.
Online, okay.
So I might be able to help with that a little bit. So the free grace community would be the group that I've been involved with in the past, CS, Church of the Children Secured, not just them, but other groups like that. These would be people that don't consider themselves Lordshippers. In fact, I would say they would classify themselves as diametrically opposed to Lordship salvation. They would say that they believe in grace. They don't count on works
Yeah.
to save them. I think that's a pretty generic description.
Yeah.
Probably.
I would say no, that it's not as acceptable in life regarding
Right.
all the things that was listed, just because a lot of these that are listed, your spouse, partner, children, parents, friends, etc., they're in your life and you see them. And I feel like it's so much easier for people in online communities to label people, because they're not, it's just a label. It's not actual faces or actual people. I mean,
Right.
in a way it is, but
Right.
um, people seem to have more manners when you're face to face, or when you see people often, or you're in person. It's
Yeah.
just your manners are more in check, and you're more. I think you think more about what you're saying
Sure.
before it comes out of your mouth.
Sure. We could probably do a whole topic on whether social media has affected that in a negative way as well, because
Yeah.
you have keyboard warriors. That's a term I've used for it before, when you can essentially be anonymous in an online chat room. You can change your name to whatever you want. You can create your own account, a sock
Yeah.
account, Gmail, or whatever. And then you can just hurl the insults and classify people and label people and
Not have
much,
to worry
much
about
worse.
backlash. Well, I'll give you an example of a time that I screwed up. I don't mind sharing.
Okay.
I had a friend from high school that was kind of ranting and raving about, who was the football player that knelt, the guy with the fro.
Kaepernick.
Yes, when that whole
Colin
thing went down.
Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of, she had made a post, and a bunch of people were, in the comments making comments and stuff like that. And I felt like I made a fairly decent comment from both sides of the coin of what was going on.
Mhm.
But
Sure.
at the end, I made this comment about the left being the enemy.
Mm.
And it blew up. My comment blew up, and it was people that I'd gone to high school with. And one
Mhm.
girl specifically was talking to me in this comment thread, and I was like out. I was not on, I'm not on Facebook 24/7, and I guess
Right.
some people assume that everybody is.
Mhm.
So if you're not responding to their comments, they think you're ignoring them, and they get really upset.
Sure.
And so then I had one of my friends that I'm still close with from high school, and she actually is a liberal. And she
Mhm.
called me, and I was in Bass Pro Shops, and she was like, she sounded like somebody had died. And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And she said, have you not seen what's going down on Facebook? And I was like, what are you talking about? And so she shared with me about, like, she reminded me of the comment that I had made. And this other mutual friend of ours in high school was just flipping out. And at first she was fine. She was trying to start a dialogue with me, but because I wasn't answering, because I wasn't on Facebook,
Mhm.
she took it as an offense.
Sure.
She thought I was just ignoring her, and so she just went off. And I
Mhm.
got blackballed at my high school reunion because this girl went off. Then she labeled me.
Yeah.
It was just this huge mess. And
Yeah.
I apologized to her, in private messaging on Facebook, and she
Mhm.
blocked me and didn't respond. And so then we had to, like, talk it out on our high school reunion page for everyone to see. But
Wow.
I was fine with that. I was like, if you're angry, I understand.
Mhm.
Like, I understand. I made a mistake, and she just thought I was apologizing to save face, but I really and truly was embarrassed and
Yeah.
regretted, not just because it blew up for, in public eye,
Right.
but that I had hurt her feelings, that I'd hurt a few other people's feelings from high school that don't share the same beliefs as I do, and they're not on the same political side. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It just was a mess. So I too have made that mistake using labels, and just what do they call it? Call that something to do with painting. It's like you're painting people with one brush,
Broad brush. Yeah.
broad brush. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I learned a lot from that experience, but it was painful and
Yeah.
really messy.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
anyway, just wanted to share.
yeah. Thanks for being transparent. I appreciate that. So I'll go next, and I'll agree with what Jen said. In fact, in society in general, not including social media, but just in society in general, people being face to face. I mean, you're going to still run into your jerks that are willing to hurt people's feelings and say what they want, and they're pretty proud of it. Okay, so we're all aware that those people do exist, but in person, I would agree that it's not as prevalent as it is online. And before I comment, I'm going to read Nathan's comment because it kind of ties into what I'm going to say. Taking my turn at being transparent. I've talked about this before, but since it's the topic, I'll discuss it again. Nathan says, unless you're on YouTube, I find most people don't even know what Lordship doctrine is. It was new to me. I had no idea most churches or religions are Lordship. I would agree, Nathan. When I came in to these particular groups back in 2017, I was working so much I didn't have time to be on YouTube. I wasn't aware that there was all these groups, Christian or otherwise, just wasn't aware of it. And when I did, and I saw these labels, Lordshipper, and learned what it was, or what people think it is at least, learned that it's generally thought of as someone that believes that you get saved by your works. You're not saved by Christ alone through faith alone with nothing added. You have to work to get your salvation. Now, that may not be true, but that's the definition based on what I heard from other people. And I said, well, that's, of course, terrible. It's not what I believed. So even though, like Nathan, I didn't really know what it was until I came to YouTube, it's not something that I agree with. However, my part about being transparent, and I don't feel like she would have any problem with me sharing this, but my lesson came from Janet. In doing the shows that I was doing at the time, the interesting thing is I don't even think I use the term as much as other people, but that's not the point. The point is, if it hurts someone's feelings, doesn't matter whether I did it intentionally or not. It matters that someone's feelings are hurt, and that's not my intention. My intention is to get people in the room and have a conversation, and not to use labels to offend people or keep them from being willing to listen to what it is I want to say and getting to know people. So Janet, which I'm very grateful for, told me about it, and we had an email exchange back and forth a couple times. She shared with me her feelings and how much that term offended her, and how much it, kind of like the comment I read here in the write up. And I was very apologetic. And since then, I have tried. I'm not saying I haven't ever used the term, but I've certainly tried to not use it in a derogatory form. It still is a term that's used out there, but it's also still a label. So I learned from that, Jen. You shared how you learned from it. I learned from it as well. And fortunately, Janet was very forgiving, and I feel like we're closer now. This just could be on my end, but I feel like we're closer now than we were before, as a result of her being willing to come up front and say, hey, this was hurtful and I didn't appreciate it. And she gave me an opportunity to respond. And that's big with me. If you don't tell someone that your feelings are hurt, how can they ever get a chance to make it right if they're a person that wants to make it right?
Very good point.
So that's that she gave me that opportunity. And because of that, I believe that we're able to understand each other from a different perspective. So I would say that's anybody has that opportunity. First, if someone's hurting your feelings, to be able to share that with someone, and then you put it in their lap, put it in their court, so to speak, and see what they do with it. If they don't do anything with it and they don't apologize and don't try to mend fences, so to speak, then that's on them at that point. You've done the best you can to share how you feel, and not just held it inside and held it against them and things like that. So I'm grateful that she didn't do that with me. So thank you, Janet. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you're forgiving enough to come and be a part of our group here. I appreciate it very much. So that's my end. Glenn, do you want to comment on this one? In life, free spouse, partner, children, parents, friends, etc., is the labeling attitude as acceptable as it is in the free grace community? If not, why not?
First thing, that was a good point. I can't remember. I think Jen might have made it. Is the influence of social media really a big factor in why people see the use of or use labels in the first place? So I thought, yeah, maybe the use of labels is right across the board in social media. I can't answer that, but in terms of your question, I've never seen anything in my life that's even come close to what I've seen on the YouTube videos that I've looked at. It's just so far outside my frame of reference,
Right.
because it's like, and Australians tend to be much more introspective. Like we make fun of each other way more than I would think Americans do. We'll take the piss, no trouble at all. But it's not said with malice.
Right.
But when you hear a lot of the YouTube stuff that's coming out, it's not only labeling; it's labeling plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. And I mean, it has an emotional reaction when you hear people speak about others like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. So yeah, that's my answer on that one.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like telling somebody, well, I don't give a crap about getting to know you or your story or your testimony or what makes you you. You're worth crap. I'm just gonna broad brush you and move along.
Yeah. Yeah, because the term, even the term lordshipper, that is a broad brush. I have talked to Jan and I've watched what she said, and I don't consider her, not that it matters to her. I mean, she's her own person, and she can, as she's adequately said in the comments in the write up, she's able to know herself very well, and I'm not anyone to tell her that she's not going to heaven, or and I don't make a habit of doing that. My thing is, as I stated, my understanding based on coming into these groups when I did, the definition I was told was that the lordship recounts on works. It's making Jesus the Lord of your life, which makes you a servant, which I would agree with, that we're servants, but we're also brothers and sisters. We're part of a family. It's not essentially just a servant-master relationship. That's my opinion, but I think that most in the free grace community would say very clearly from Scripture, it's not works that saves, it's what Christ did on the cross that saves alone, and that we bring nothing to the table, we add nothing to it. That does not permit me, though, to use a label to bring someone down a peg, or it doesn't put me in a place of being God to determine who's saved and who's not saved either. So that's an important distinction to make. I would go back to the comment about social media and just say that because YouTube is social media, we have the same tendency to be able to, again, to make up a username and to pretty much say what we want. And I would say that there are other groups that are worse than the ones I've been involved with, even because the ones I've been involved with, at least they at least pretend to give liberty and all this other stuff. They have a creed that they say that they follow, and it was very disappointing to find out that they don't really follow it. It's when it suits their needs. So where does labeling fit into that? Is that liberty? Is it liberty to put a label on someone and to say to them, well, if you're a lordshipper, then you're not part of our community, or we can't show you liberty if your beliefs are different than ours. Is that really liberty? That's probably a question for another time, but I just want to throw that in there. Before we move on to any questions, I want to make sure that if anyone had made any comments. Nathan says, I was glad Renee showed me I was a lordshipper. I was glad to be shown my error. I knew all my Christian life something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So, Nathan, if you want to comment on this, it's totally up to you. Are you okay with using that term for other people? As Jen was suggesting, do you find yourself using a broad brush? Do you put all Lordshippers in the same category or not? Just a question. Like I said, you can answer if you're not or not. And then Janet says, it is saying, I think I know all about LS and you're one and you are a jerk because of it. Not cool nor wise. Yeah, I appreciate that, Janet. I would completely agree. Again, it's telling someone else based on their beliefs that they can't be part of the cool club, which in this case, we're talking about the free grace community. Obviously, if you're labeled a Lordshipper, then you're not part of the free grace community. I would also ask the question, is it really free grace? Is it grace to call someone a Lordshipper and say because our beliefs are different, that they can't be part of that said community? Is that grace? Does anyone want to comment on that?
Doesn't sound like it to me. I tend more to think that people don't think about what effect this can have, and it comes up later in the write-up.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like you get on a path, and it's just so easy to have your little groups, and you got your little this one, and this one. You can, and makes you think, oh well, I can quantify this real easily, but with no thought whatsoever of that the fact is you're dealing here with people. You're not dealing with robots.
Right. Right. These are people with feelings, emotions. They have hearts, they have desires and dreams and lives, and you're stacking them with the label. And as Janet said, you're basically saying they're jerks. And Nathan says Lordshippers aren't always jerks, but works does make people unconsciously angry. I find very stressed out people. And then Janet's response to Nathan was, Nathan, I'm not angry, and I'm labeled LS by most in CS, talking doctrine, etc. And then Nathan says, Jace, do you not find, though, that when you trace Lordship back to its root, it's the same problem, a works gospel that can't save? Yeah. Yeah, works gospel can't save. And I'll make this point very clear. If you're counting on your works as a person to save you, then yes, that can't save you. Your works can't save you. What saves is what Christ did on the cross. So if you're labeled a Lordship, or in other words, you're making Jesus the Lord of your life, I don't have any problem with that. And if you think that your works are what saves you, now it's another thing entirely to believe that what Jesus did on the cross saves you, but you feel as a result of that, or what he's done for you, that works are important. I would completely agree 100%. Works are important. I think the works aren't number one. They should be something that we do because of what he did, and not the other way around. We don't do it so that we get saved.
Reasonable service.
Reasonable service. Thank you, Jen. That's right. Any other comments before we move on to the next question? I think I've read all the comments that relate to that. Jan says, I saw too many assuming that the worst example of works-based teachers on YouTube is how all other LS are. All other Lordshippers are. Yeah. I think that's probably true about any Christian group out there as well, that there are examples of kind of the worst of them, even in the free grace community.
And they're lumped together.
Yeah, they're lumped together. And we're not just saying it's bad for people calling out Lordshippers. I'm saying it's bad if you're labeling anyone. I just think that's a really good example that we're using, the whole Lordship thing, because there's a lot of people, certainly in the chat, that have heard that term and are aware of it.
Ooh.
Yes.
No, go ahead. Finish a question, but finish your thought.
No, I'm done. That was it.
I just had a question pop up in my head. So when the Bible says to mark and avoid,
Hmm.
do you think the Bible is meaning to label?
Ooh, good question. In that particular case, if someone is a false teacher and you've proved that, and I don't mean just that you think they're a false teacher, but there's enough, and the question becomes how much. See, I want to do a show on that. Actually, this is a topic I want to discuss more.
Sweet.
It may not be on TSL. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. Maybe when it's one of our turns, we can talk about doing it. But people are pretty quick to mark and avoid. So my question is, at what point, what evidence do you need to decide when to mark and avoid? And
And what does that look like too? You know?
what does it look like? And at what point do we know that that's what God expects us to do? And what does he want us to do? I mean, we're also told to go into all the world and preach the gospel. We're also told to be salt and light to the world. We're a light that is set on a hill that cannot be moved. We're not supposed to hide our light under a bushel, you know. So how is that going to minister someone? If someone is a false teacher is basically someone that is I have to use a label to describe it, but it's a false convert, someone that pretends to be a believer, but they're not, and they're trying to poison other people, get them to believe something that's a false gospel. So that is a serious thing in the Christian world. But the point is, how do you decide who's doing that and when it's the right time to mark and avoid? It does say to mark and avoid, and I would say, Jen, that it technically is a label. You're labeling someone a false prophet that's leading people to hell. I mean, that's what the term is.
And that brings you to another thing. A label can be something that is true about somebody, but it could also be something that's assumed or false.
Yeah, that's the broad brush thing.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. So I would say before I marked and avoided, I would have to have, me personally, I would have to have enough evidence to show it's more than just them being in error. It's that they're actively trying to bring others down.
Yeah.
And presenting a false narrative. And at that point, it's just me marking and avoiding. It doesn't say do videos about them. It doesn't say.
That was my other question.
Oh, good.
Like, are you running around like mark and avoid, everybody mark and avoid?
Yeah. In fact, oh, go ahead.
Did you have more? Good. Nope.
So on another video, it was actually Talking Doctrine, and I was in the chat, and there was a guest on there that was going up against Matthias and talking about different topics. And all I said was, because this person was saying, you know, that he was one and done. I'm going to do this one show, then I'm not going to be in the chat. Because before that, the person was saying he's marking and avoiding, and other people have said, yeah, we're going to mark and avoid, but they're not marking and avoiding. They may have marked, but they're not avoiding. So I just said, well, maybe he'll be the first person in that particular group to actually follow through with that, because I don't see any benefit if you're marking and avoiding, but you're coming back around and still making your points. I don't see where that's avoiding. It's marking, but it's not avoiding. But getting back to your question, Jen, that I brought up, it doesn't say that we're, you know, to mark them. Okay, that's an initial thing that happens. So you say, let's say Bill is a false prophet, and you realize that, and you have enough evidence, and you tell people to prevent them from falling into being taught a false doctrine. Bill is misleading people, and he's a false prophet. And then you avoid him. Yeah. So it's not going on and on and on and following them around wherever they go and saying false prophet, false prophet, false prophet. To me, it can be something that's done once and then you avoid. Another verse says, Jesus said, if you go into town and you're not welcome, it doesn't say just give up then, try a couple times. And if they still won't listen, then leave and knock the dust off your feet and go on to another house. It doesn't say you hang outside the house yelling, top of your lungs, false prophet, they won't listen. No, you move on. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing to consider too, is how much time is being spent on this person.
Yeah.
If it says mark and avoid, marking is one part of the process and avoiding is the other. So do both. If you're so sure that someone is a false prophet and they're misleading others, then just, in my opinion, do it and move on.
All right.
Seems simple enough. But we may do a broadcast on that. I've certainly looked into it since all this stuff came up, and it's been brought up a lot. Well, I'm going to mark and avoid you, and it seems like it has to be a public proclamation.
Yeah.
I'm marking and avoiding you, and it doesn't end. It doesn't stop there. So before we move on, 2 people to say hello to. More Than a Flame popped in. So hello to you, sir. Sup, y'all, he says. Sup, y'all. Okay. Glad you're here. And also Switch 321. Hello, Switch. Glad you're here as well. Thank you for stopping by. Hope both of your Thanksgiving holidays were well. I believe both of you are in the States. So possibility that you had turkey and stuffing, and maybe you watched football and hung around family. I hope that was the case, and hope you had a good Thanksgiving day. Most of all, I hope that you're thankful that you live in, even though there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the country, it's still one of the best places to live. I'm sure Glenn might disagree with that. He probably would say that Australia is way better, at least for the food.
The food and the heat.
Well, Glenn can actually have an opinion. He claims that because I haven't been anywhere outside the States, I haven't traveled anywhere, so he can have an opinion about other places, right, Glenn?
You betcha.
You're slow to answer.
No, I didn't know whether you were inviting me or trying to keep me quiet.
No, I'm not. No, this is you're a part of the panel. I'm not ever trying. In fact, I would like you to talk more, actually, as I've brought up.
I'd
People
rather
wanna
be
hear-
there, that's for sure.
Speak.
People want to hear from you, Glenn. You're
Yeah.
definitely part of the
I
part
like
of the group there.
Australia, but I also like a lot of other places.
Japan.
Oh,
You love Japan.
I could go. I've been a lot of places, so I don't know. Yeah, Sandra and I had this conversation. Where would we live if we could? And a lot of places that had like bad weather, like cold, grey weather, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
So, but if you set up the Western countries, actually, Canada, New Zealand, Ireland,
Yeah, Ireland.
they're all good.
I would love
Hey,
to go.
that's gray and wet.
Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, not always.
Not always.
A couple of days a year it might be, I'd say.
Well, from what I hear, like Seattle, Washington area is pretty gray and wet a lot. So there's places here in America that are like that a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah.
see, I'm trying to find it. Switch said, Glenn needs to come here and smell the American air.
I've been to the States many a time I've been to the States.
He has.
Yeah.
All he did was complain. That's all he did.
Not always. It was not really complaint. It was, I consider it honesty. You say you declare yourself. I said the food's crap. I meant it.
I think it's labeling, Glenn.
You liked the Chick-fil-A I got you and Sandra when I picked you up from the airport.
He lied.
That's because I think they're really hungry.
I think we were desperate. It was only on reflection we realised it wasn't as good as we initially thought.
You bastard.
Jen.
No, Jen. That was we had to watch for that. We better set her up a bit more, Crips.
I know, right? Oh, good stuff. Okay, next question. When labeling, where might discernment end and arrogance begin? I think that's a great question. I'll pass it off to one of you to answer first if you'd like. When labeling, so when you're labeling, where might discernment end and arrogance begin?
Okay, I think discernment is not labeling
Oh, okay.
because you're you're checking things out. You're checking someone out, what they believe, who they are, what their personality is, if they're trustworthy, if they're honest, all those things.
Mhm.
And you have to get to know somebody. And that's
Wow.
part of the discernment. When you label, now I guess you could label someone after you've gotten to know them for an extensive amount of time.
Mhm.
Like I label my ex a narcissist,
All
and
right.
I feel very sure about that label.
Yeah.
But labeling in the way that we're talking about, the broad brush, or just flippantly without knowing someone and knowing the situation or knowing all their beliefs and the ins and outs of it. Because, like Glenn mentioned before, we're people, we're not robots,
Mhm.
and we're all very multifaceted in
Sure.
everything that we are, our beliefs, all those things.
Sure.
So that's my answer.
Yeah, we're not just we're made up a lot of parts and pieces. We're not just one thing generally.
Hmm.
So a broad brush doesn't work.
Yeah.
I like your point. I mean, getting to know someone. So you're saying that if you're having discernment, labeling is unnecessary most of the time. Is that accurate?
Well, I think it's prior to labeling. It could either
Right.
be without labeling or prior to,
That's great.
where the discernment comes in, because discernment can still bring you to a point. Well, I mean, I guess it's two different kinds of labeling, because the main labeling we're talking about here is the very flippant, hurtful kind, the broad
Oh,
brush.
excellent point.
um, but you can, I think, successfully label somebody if you have all the information,
Hmm.
and it be more of a from an evidence point of view.
Right. Yeah, I was going to throw that in there, but that's the word I like. You have
Yeah.
enough evidence, and discernment can lead you to a point of labeling. But I like what you said, that you take some time to do it. It's not just something upon first meeting someone, you're taking some time to get to know them.
Yeah.
And do people really want to do that? It seems like the labeling happens, you find out they believe something differently than you, and then the label comes out.
Yeah.
And
Why do we do that? What's the point? And I guess what Glenn in the write up, it is a superiority kind of a thing. But I wonder if sometimes it's something different. If sometimes it's something other than superiority or arrogance.
it's a good question. It could be a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of if you're labeling someone, if you don't agree with them or don't like them, um, would there be any reason to get to know them? So, and maybe you would think that they would even hurt you in some way.
Yeah.
Um, that's true for me. I mean, back in the day, and I've talked about this, everybody's heard, with the PTL and all that, and getting stabbed in the back by other quote unquote believers. Now I understand them to have been, in my opinion, people that were false converts, people pretending they're wolves in sheep clothing, so to speak.
Yeah.
I understand that better now than I did back then. Back then, I just thought, oh, these Christians are hypocrites and non believers are way easier to get along with because at least it doesn't come in the back. If they're going to stab you, they stab you right in the front. It's like
Yeah.
you see it coming, and you know what to expect, rather than being something secretive. Um,
Yeah.
but arrogance, to me, arrogance is absent discernment. Uh, I don't know how you can be arrogant and using your discernment at the same time.
Yeah. It's a good point.
I have to think about it more, but it seems like if you have discernment, you might still label someone, as you're saying. After you get to know them, you might be labeling someone, but there wouldn't be a need to do it arrogantly. You just label them in your own mind. That doesn't have to be something that's, as the write-up says, the labels are actively promoted, encouraged, and used in public forums. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be your own personal private assessment, is the way the write-up puts it, effectively.
Yeah.
For private assessment. I think that's a good point. For me, when labeling, where might discernment end and arrogance begin? I think at the point where you're working out of your arrogance, the discernment It may not be gone. It's just you're not using it. You're in a different category. Biblically speaking, we're not to be arrogant as believers. We're to be humble and have humility. In fact, the Bible talks quite extensively about arrogance and pride and bloated self. We're not talking about loving yourself. I need to make that clear.
Yeah.
In fact, the greatest commandment is to love God with everything and love your neighbor as yourself. So that's implied in that there is love for self, and that's not a selfish or self-absorbed love.
Yeah.
It's appreciating that God as creator thought that you had value in some way, even as a sinner, that he sent his son into the world to die for your sins. And because of that, he must think there's something good about you. There must be something in you that he at least appreciates.
Yeah. Worth saving.
Yes. Worth
restoring, worth forgiving, worth loving,
mm-hmm.
worth covering, all those things.
Thank you. I'll say hello to Rachel Menifee. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Says hello to everyone else. So please make Rachel feel welcome in the chat if you have a moment. Appreciate that. Janet says, Jason, I try to avoid names, but for example, if people think that LS are like Chris LaSalia, hope I said that right, then we have a problem. Unfortunately, I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with who that is. Does anyone else know who that is?
I've never heard of that person.
Okay.
I did want to read her message. I don't know if you knew this, but she said, Jen, Glenn, sorry, I have no idea what you were talking about, as I can't chat and listen, so always listen to the show afterwards. So I think she's just in the chat talking. I don't know if she can, I'm not sure if she can hear us.
Janet, you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Oh, I see it now.
Maybe she's like me. I can't listen to something either while I'm typing.
Okay.
And reading,
thank you for, thank you for saying that. So I might, if she puts something in chat, I might just address it and then she can hear it later. That's no problem, but I won't expect her to answer any questions right now. Thank you so much. Also, Paula came in. She may have been listening. So thank you, Paula, for being willing to put a comment in there. Paula says, we label other people all the time, and often there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong if we label ourselves Christian atheists. So are you guys talking about name calling or labels that might hurt others? Great question, Paula. Me personally, I'm talking about labels that hurt other people. And we used an example. I used an example from Janet, who's in the chat, of me using the term and her being hurt by it and her sharing that with me. So I didn't mean it as name calling, but I realized because of that exchange with her that I need to be very careful how I use labels in general. So for me, it's not for the intent of hurting others from me, but it doesn't matter. If someone's hurt by it, then I need to be more careful about how I label. I would agree the term Christian atheist, if someone claims to be an atheist, then I don't see any problem with calling them that if that's what they want to call themselves. But if I just look at someone and say, oh, you're an atheist, and they're not admitting that, then is that not name calling and possibly wrong? So I agree with what you're saying. There may not be anything wrong with just general labels. If a person has said or called themselves that, then I guess you can call them that. But I know too, if someone calls themselves a Christian and people are saying, well, no, you're not, then, I believe there is something wrong with that. I mean, in general, if the purpose is hurting their feelings, it's a different thing. If, you're trying to show the person truth, but I would say that isn't always the best route to do the name calling and to call someone unsaved. That was earlier up in the list as one of the, all heard the terms Lordship, lost, false convert, stupid demonic bastard, heretic, devil, witch, easy believism, greasy grace, McGospel, etc. And I know, Paula, that you and Matthias both have been called at least a couple of these things. And I would see it as being hurtful. I would say that that's an example of a hurtful label. And though patently untrue, in my opinion, that's what makes it even more hurtful. I mean, it may be water off a duck's back because you know that you're not any of the things that you were called. So you might just move on. But still, I mean, is it necessary to do that? I would say that it's unnecessary, and that the person that used those terms in reference to the both of you was out of line. And it was certainly above and beyond what I would consider biblical marking and avoiding. There's nothing in the Bible about name calling. I would say marking and avoiding is biblical, but it's not name calling that's called for. So I hope that answered your question. And again, thank you, Paula. Okay, Glenn, you gotta weigh in on this one. When labeling, where might discernment end and arrogance begin, sir?
I think it's where you have I think arrogance begins where you are making a point to say that I know more than you do, or your view is worth less than mine. I think that's, I can pretty much accept labeling to a point, and Nathan made a good comment there. I want to address that as well.
Okay.
I think people in general are discerning enough to know when a label is being applied authentically. Say, oh, I'm sorry to hear you have leukemia. I mean, you could call that a label, but I wouldn't consider it as such in this context. And I think people are discerning enough to know, but when someone gets on and speaks and you hear their voice, you put the words together and you immediately react in a way that says, that I'm concerned the way that this person said that, because they're really they're promoting themselves. Really, this is where arrogance is. It's the self-promotion over what would be considered to be the topic at hand. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's how I see it. And I see it in chat. I see it on shows where people speak. I see it in attitude, if you might call it attitude.
Yep. That's what Adiaphora just said in the chat.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
glad that you said the name, because I wasn't going to try to pronounce it, Jen. So Adiaphora, is that right?
It's
That's
a
good.
cool definition. I posted it above.
Awesome.
But yeah, Glenn, she said, I would argue that arrogance begins with the person's attitude in the use of the labeling. Beautifully said.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
100%. You beat me to it.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Ding,
So,
ding, ding.
so Nathan did say about me labeling myself as an atheist, and that is a fair comment. But the truth of it is, I only label myself that so that for other people's benefit rather than my own. I couldn't. You've said yourself, Crips, that you don't see me necessarily as an atheist, but that's
Not at all.
Easiest and quickest way for me to say, hey, I don't believe any of this that you believe.
Right.
That's all it's meant to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, at the beginning, I understand why you would have classified yourself as that, but since there's been many broadcasts and many conversations since then and now, with a gun pointed to my head, I would in no way say that you were an atheist based on what you say you believe. But that's my personal
but for people on this show who have a set of beliefs that's pretty well opposite from myself, I think it probably is the quickest and easiest way to identify my position. But it's not said with you can see there's no vitriolic speech or arrogance or anything from anyone here towards the term atheist, as far as I can tell. It appears that the vitriol and arrogance is confined in the community itself. Outside, it doesn't seem to be anywhere like that at all. So the takedowns are within groups that believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah. Now, just to drag this out a little bit more, earlier on, you did not that you were offended by it, but you did have a little bit of problem with the term lost. And we talked about that a little bit on TSL back in the day. It's been over a year ago now or more.
Do you
But
remember that, Glenn?
Yes, I do.
okay, so if you're being called lost, that is a label that is potentially hurtful. But because of the implication, it's saying from someone that considers themselves a Christian, you're fine with the term atheist, but if someone points at you and says you're lost, then that has a different emotion attached to it.
Well, personally, I don't care what they label me. I couldn't give a rat's backside. But
Okay.
I'm thinking it's another broad brush that for someone else who might be in a different position from myself to hear that all-encompassing term lost, I don't think it's a valid and a fair play, because it's the inference is that you're lost and I'm not, immediately delineating yourself as the one who has the answers, and you're lost. You don't know anything. You're an idiot.
Right.
Unlike it.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, and that's actually someone else that's just, I mean, it is just labeling someone else. They may think that you're lost, but in terms of God knowing the hearts of people, well, I believe only God knows. I mean, we can have our opinions, but as you said in the write-up, which I agree, it's to use it effectively for private assessment. That's where it's beneficial. It's if you want to label someone privately, and it's for your own benefit to put them in some sort of category, not in a public forum, and not actively promoting it or whatever. I would say that that's way more appropriate.
I think that's discernment, where
Right.
you can pick the place where you do consider it, use it, etc., and where you come forward with it. That's discernment. There's a
Beautiful.
place and a time for everything.
Mhm. Well, that's right from the Bible, Glenn. Just so you know,
Gee,
there's a season for everything under heaven. So there you go. Paula says, I hate the label reprobate. Depending on a person's definition, they can just call anyone they don't like a reprobate, and that apparently gives them the right to hate on them. Thank you, Paula. Yes, that's a good example. Labeling in general seems to give people the right to hate anyone. It doesn't really matter what the
Yeah.
label is. They can, anyone they don't agree with, they can tack them with a label, and then that means they can treat them like dog crap.
Mhm.
I want to use a different word, but I'll save that for private time. But that's
Bastard.
yeah.
Just kidding.
Oh, this is
Whatever.
this is my beautiful wife, ladies and gentlemen. Freely using the term bastard. I love it. Yeah, this is what I've seen even in the free grace community. It's labeling someone, and then that means you can say whatever you want about them, such as witch and devil. That's a perfect example. Don't have to mention any names. A few people may know who did that, and that's enough for me. It's not about that person in general. It's saying that the behavior is what I'm pointing at. No need to call anyone out. It's the behavior. It's what gives any person the right to not only label someone else, but to just do it with impunity and without any evidence. There's no evidence. This is someone's personal opinion, and you're basically slandering someone because you don't agree with their doctrine. And to me, that's not right either way. It's not right for anyone to do that, to just label someone and to call them names.
Can I read Adia Forrest's comments?
I was just going to do that. So go ahead, please.
She, I think it's a she, please correct me if I'm wrong, said, what I have observed in forums is the herd mentality that was ignited by assumptive labeling, carrying into misrepresenting the person or persons being labeled. And then they said, I think we're at our best at edifying each other. Where we're at our best at edifying each other is to start by not misrepresenting others' views, if they be in error or not.
Wow. Yeah. Apparently Glenn agrees with that. I would agree with that too. observed in forms of herd mentality. We could have a whole show on that, just herd mentality. We're seeing that now with the both the anti-mask crowds and the mask crowds. I mean, it's not just one group. If you think that it's essential to wear a mask, then you're kind of put yourself in the one category. And then if you're against wearing masks, then you're in the other category, and it gives you the right to just call other people that aren't doing what you think is right, and calling them names.
Stop spreading rumors.
You can't stop people from spreading rumors. That's hilarious.
It could be true. How do we know?
Well,
what are y'all talking about?
Have you heard an announcement?
Hey, mate, who has to make an announcement for something to be true? Where did you get that one from?
No, I'm saying if this is an example, we're talking about labeling. So if someone comes on and says a rumor with no basis in evidence, that's exactly what we're talking about, in my opinion.
Ouch. Ouch.
That's the subject, you know.
Okay, I'll crawl back into my hole now. Come out later.
We will say hello to Talking Doctrine Exposed. Welcome. And also say hello to Fisherman in the Box. Glad that you're here. Evening to you as well. Thank you for stopping by. And also Liam stopped by as well. So welcome. Yeah, Paula, we know. Paula said that wasn't Matthias. Yeah.
I said I misread.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. No, nobody on this end started any rumors about that. Okay.
Funny.
Yeah. All right.
Moving along.
Okay. So I wanted to go back up to the statement that we were just talking about. I think that we're at the best edifying each other. Is to start by not misrepresenting others' views. Okay, so that goes on all over the place. Misrepresenting other people's, yeah, a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So please find out what someone believes before you try to represent their belief. Because what I have seen a lot of is people thinking that they know what someone believes, whether it be doctrine or politics or anything else. Jen, it's like you talking about liberals. You know,
Yeah.
you were transparent about that, and you learned from that experience. It's exactly like that. You know,
Flat Earth's a really great example too.
Mm-hmm.
Whoo, boy, do they get painted with a broad brush, a broad, stupid brush.
Yeah. Yeah, because not all flat earthers are alike, just like anything else. And in fact, there's a lot that are into New Age stuff rather than into the Bible, and they're in a completely different category. We might agree that the Earth is not a spinning ball, you know, hurling through space at thousands of miles an hour. But yeah, we're not all the same. And the term Christians are not all the same. We have many different people that believe different things. And that's the way it goes. Just saw this. Switch says, well, Cripps said that he wouldn't call you an atheist, and I always assumed that you were. So I'm wondering what you would say you are. Oh, that was to you, Glenn. Cripps said that he wouldn't call you an atheist, and I always assumed that you were. So I am wondering what you would say you are. Do you care to answer that, Glenn? And I'll leave that totally up to you.
I am what I am. Whether there's a label applied or not. I don't believe, as I said in the chat, in a God of any kind. Pretty straightforward. If people can do what they want with that, I don't care. It's not going to hurt me. So, yeah.
You're tougher than most, though, I must say. You Aussies, you have some thick skin.
Hang on. What's thick-skinned about that?
About what?
About what you just said. Why thick-skinned? Why would I care what anyone says?
No, I'm just saying that you have a thick skin in the sense where things don't seem to bother you. Whereas
Well,
some other people from other parts of the world have a thinner skin and they get offended really easily.
Yeah. Well,
okay. What is
Glenn,
there to be offended about? What is there to be offended about there, though?
Someone being labeled, someone labeling them.
yeah. Remember what we're talking about?
I realise that, but I, for me personally,
But I know,
don't,
yeah, I
I
know where
don't
you're coming
care
from,
what
Glenn.
you say.
You know why? Because you know who you are, and
Mm.
you're solid and firm in that, right?
I'm 100% comfortable with the place I'm in. Yes, exactly.
And you're not looking to other people to define you.
But I'm also not looking to heap. I was going to say shit, but I'm not
You can say
looking.
Well,
to,
you just said it.
I know,
If
but
you're,
I
if
did
you're,
that
if you're going to go to not say it, then don't say what it is that you.
I did that deliberately just so you get a laugh. But
You want to hear me laugh?
I did laugh.
I don't need to have a reason or rationale to go back and heap it back the other way. Oh, you've offended me, or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
But what I get annoyed in inverted commas with is where this gets thrown out, and it could encompass a group of 200 people, all with the broad brush. If you speak to me one on one, that to my mind is a way different situation than if you're just throwing something out across the community.
Mhm.
I think that's a huge difference. That this is just me and you having a conversation. Well, as far as I'm
Right.
concerned, you can say what you like, but
Sure.
you don't take that conversation that we would have one on one and then put the same thing out there, do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I think I get your point, but going back to what Jen's saying about a thick skin, a lot of people in the West haven't heard the way Aussies talk to each other and the what we would consider insults and uh, hurtful dialogue between people, and to you, it's nothing. You don't mean anything by it, but if you said some of the things that you would say to a fellow Aussie here in America, you're likely to get your nose popped.
When I came to the States, like spent time with your mum, I realised pretty quickly that I was putting my big fat foot in it.
Right.
Because I just behaved like an Australian, and then in conversation, I would say something, and I'd get these looks of like people are totally devastated. Like I thought, what have I done? Have I just shot them in the head with a 303 or something?
Yeah.
Then I had to. Then someone told me and said, "Hey, buddy, yeah, this is not how it works here." And I thought, "Oh, crikey, I better pull my head in."
Right. Right.
But and whereas we're just so over here, it's a term of endearment to slaying someone off.
Sure.
The closer you are, the more you take them down.
Sure. So you wouldn't consider those labels then, because it's in a different category then.
I wouldn't consider them labels, no.
Right. Hello to Journey's Wake. It's okay that you're late, buddy. We're glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Well, it's an open door policy, so you guys can come and go as you please, and no skin off our nose. We're glad when you're here, and we're sad that when you leave, but we'll enjoy every minute that we can while you're involved in the conversation. So thank you.
Can you read Rachel's comment? That's a good point.
Yeah, the one that she just put in. Question, but even if we have a thick skin, that doesn't change the effect of slander and misrepresentation, and so it may hinder our sharing the gospel. Well. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the point that I always try to make. This is something I learned a long time ago, decades and decades ago, and I learned it from being in codependency groups and hearing mostly women. Unfortunately, men are less into digging into themselves and trying to be better people, and that's a generalization. But from
broad brush.
But from me actually being the only man in generally a group of 20 to 25 women that are trying to better themselves, that's based on observation. For sure.
That's true.
Learning how much people are hurt by the way things are said and comments people make and the effect that it has on them, slander and misrepresentation. So to me, it doesn't matter if you intend to do it or not. If someone is hurt by something you say, if they consider it to be slander or misrepresentation, then adjustments have to be made if you're a person that cares about that sort of thing. But so if you have a thick skin or not, it doesn't change the effect of slander or misrepresentation. I completely agree with that. And I would say that if you're a believer, it does definitely hinder the gospel. Who wants to hear the gospel from someone that's slandering and misrepresenting other people? Why would someone listen to you? If you're calling yourself a believer, or you're calling yourself a Christian, and you're in whatever group you're in, whether it's Lordship or Free Grace or whatever, and you're saying that, oh, you're witnessing to someone or you're trying to share the gospel with someone, and you're over here misrepresenting someone else and using slander, you're doing more than marking and avoiding. You're going on and on after an individual because you don't agree with what they say. Why would they listen to anything else that you say?
Yeah. And maybe that's not their goal. And that's the thing. There are people that get on something because they want to hear what somebody else has to say. They want a conversation, a discussion to happen. And then there are other people that just want to beat on someone, and they really don't care about having a discussion.
Gotcha.
It's interesting.
Fisherman in a Box says, hey, Jen, congrats again. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And thank you for everyone that has, Liam said, Starling Swell, congratulations on getting married. I hope you have a long, happy marriage. She will, God willing, have a long, happy marriage. As long as I'm alive, it'll be happy.
Yay.
What's that term?
No, don't say it. No,
I have to,
no.
because it's not true. We don't believe that.
I hate that
it's not
saying.
true. I'm not saying it's true. But it's a saying. No, we're both happy because we are happy in ourselves first, and we're happy in our relationship with God, and therefore we're happy in our relationship with each other. That's the way that it works in my mind.
Yes.
So that's a good focus. Oh, I see. It was an answer to a question. I just saw your comment, Glenn. I think flat Earth is rubbish, and I was like, why would you even bring that up? And the question is right above it. More Than a Flame asked you, do you believe the Earth is flat? No, he doesn't. There you go. Put that one to bed right quick. No need to go into that now. I see Celine is talking about Baby Yoda, or Paula, actually, are you a little obsessed with Baby Yoda, Celine? Yes, she is. Absolutely. My little green bean.
Little green bean.
Yeah. The thing is cute. I mean, you have to admit it's cute, but I mean, where does it end? All right. So I think we've gone through question number 2. Anyone else have anything you want to say about that before we move on to number 3? Nope. All right. Is it actually possible to share constructively and inclusively without the use of labels? Is it actually possible to share constructively and inclusively without the use of labels? And in the chat, you're welcome to answer this one too, because I think this gets to the bottom of it, in my opinion. The other questions are great too. Great setup, Glenn. Definitely appreciate the way that you've worked in constructing this. Is it actually possible to share constructively and inclusively without the use of labels?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could just leave it there, just say yeah, and be done.
Well, a perfect example, like when the three of us talk in three-way chat, you, Glenn, and I, we don't go back and forth like believer, atheist. We're talking about each other with each other. It's more of like, you believe in the universe and we believe in God. It's kind of like defining what each of us believes, but it's sort of describing it in the sentences and in the conversation than just slapping a sticker on it.
Right.
And it's done respectfully. It's not done with condescension or arrogance. It's more with love and understanding where the person's coming from, whether we agree with them or not.
Yeah, and I would say that's done constructively and inclusively. Absolutely. We don't have to use labels. Now, That's a great example, but you're talking about people that have worked to get to know each other over a period of time, and we know how to speak to each other. So if you put that into a different group, like say online, is it possible when you don't really know someone? Is it still possible then?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think people have to work a little harder at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an easier road to take to label people and
Sure.
paint with a broad brush. It's faster, quicker, easier. It's not,
Yeah,
not,
broad
not
brush.
nicer, but
Well, it's a okay. So let's just be honest. It's a painting term. So what's easier, to use a roller or a big fat brush, or to cut things in, Jen? Being the
or do something with like little colored pencils.
yeah, take forever to get this garage done, but I've got my colored pencils.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. Come on.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun, and actually,
If you like detailed work,
detailed.
yeah, slower.
Well, when we have to paint, you can handle all the detailed work, and I'll use the broad brush.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I already know you're good at it because I've seen you paint. So I've seen the end result of your painting prowess. So
Thank
to speak.
you.
Yeah, you're very, very artistic and good. Yeah, so I would agree with you, Jen. It is possible. And I would say, even from a human perspective, not even just a Christian perspective, from a human perspective, I think we should strive to do it constructively, to share constructively and inclusively without using labels. And again, it goes back to what I learned by using the LS term in general regards. It wasn't specific to Janet, but just in general. And she pointed it out to me, and ever since then I've tried. And this isn't, oh, wow, I'm a great person. I mean, I should have never done it in the first place, but it was something I learned. I hope to always be learning and growing and changing. I don't want to be the same person today that I was yesterday. I want to be better. So if someone takes the time to point out to me that I've not done something constructively, I've used labels and I'm not being inclusive, then I want to do something to change that. And that's just a personal desire. Other people may not be concerned about that. They just want to throw labels out there and do what they want. And if you're hurt by it, that's on you. That's really the attitude of some people. So, Glenn, is it possible?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that I'm just trying to mindset some of the after show events that may influence that answer. I just wrote in the chat something like, I think if people spent more time actually looking and listening to what people say, and then trying to clarify things they don't understand, or at least engage with them on a relationship basis, I think the use of labels would diminish dramatically.
Yeah.
In other words, effort put in to one-on-one or to try to understand people. But that's where it becomes time involvement, and in a lot of the shows in general are throwaway shows. It begins and it ends with the show. But you imagine if there's a lot of people even in here that I consider, I think, very insightful, make great comments. They're the kind of people you'd like to know more about as a person.
Sure.
And when that happens, I think labels just tend to drop off the radar.
I agree.
Wow. Excellent point, I would say. Well, it's
so
like
you know what? Oh,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so I guess in helping with labels dropping off, people being real and open and authentic is a part of that, because you're getting to see the person.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not just what they believe. There's more to a person than their beliefs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I've even made the point, is doctrine more important than people? I mean, what's more important, someone's doctrine or what they believe, or are they more important? And that I'm not saying I definitively know the answer. I have my opinion. I have my opinion that at least to Jesus, people were important. Doctrine was important too, but he didn't come to save just a doctrine. He came to save people. And people was the reason. So, I mean, that's possibly a discussion for another time. But Yeah, that's more of a short answer to that one, but I think we got through that one fairly quickly. I definitely want to try to get to as many of these as we can, and we have 3 more to do. We're just at the bottom of the hour here. Okay, so the next one, to this point, it's all been about labeler. Is the constant use of labels based on altruistic and authentic motives? That goes into your comment, Jen, that you just made. Or is it simply an ego-based method of segregation into those who agree with me are fine and those who don't agree with me are going down? Wow.
Mhm.
There's a lot there. Jen, you've been first to answer on these. Do you want to take this one on or pass it along and kick the can down the road to kick the
I'll
can?
kick the can first as I concoct my answer in my brain.
All right.
So you can go first, or Glenn.
Sure, I'll go. Altruistic, love that word, and especially authentic. This is a word Jen just used, and we've been going back and forth about what is authentic. We've been talking about this, the three of us, for a long time. What's authentic and what's not authentic, and what we determine just based on our circle. Can you have a circle with 3 people? Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you join hands, it could be a circle. I don't know how hip Glenn would be to join hands, but we'll talk about that later. Authentic motives. So being authentic is just, in general, just being a person who is open and honest and upfront and brings things to the table, doesn't stuff things, doesn't hold on to resentments, is willing to discuss when something does come up. And I would say, as we discussed, there's no labeling in our relationship. There's no name calling or anything like that. And fair to say that there is a desire to be in a relationship with one another in the first place. So there wouldn't be any need for any of that. So just that's I guess, a pretty basic definition of authentic, but it's just being a real person. So that's the one part. That's what I would choose to go by. My ideal of life is to try to benefit others, to try to help where I can, knowing I can't change a person myself, but I would want to do as much as I can to be have an altruistic nature. Or the other version is simply an ego-based method of segregation. And the 2 groups that he used were those who agree with me are fine, those who do not agree with me are going down. A lot of this stuff, in my opinion, is ego-based. What need would there be, other than to mark and avoid, to continue beyond that? What need would there be to keep beating a dead horse, so to speak, with people that disagree with you? If someone disagrees with you and you can't handle it, it just seems like you just move on down the line and that be the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't see any benefit of coming back. Yeah, harping on it. Yeah, good point. Again and again, just I I don't understand why people can't just agree to disagree.
I have a comment about that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory that there are some people that only feel okay about their thoughts or opinions or beliefs as long as other people believe the same thing. And for some reason, it makes them incredibly uncomfortable if there are people that have differing opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it just makes their foundation a little shaky or something.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that, or it could just be pride.
I
It could
think
be both.
I think you've hit on something. Going back to what we're saying about Glenn, if you know yourself, then how does it hurt you if someone disagrees with you? How does it affect you in any way if someone doesn't agree with what you believe?
I think it affects some people really badly. I think they freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting because I think the firmer you are, like in your faith or your belief or your opinion, and even in yourself, and being okay, hey, if I'm the only one that thinks this, that's okay. I think the less it bothers you when other people don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only are you firm in your own belief, but you can be accepting of someone else having a different opinion.
Sure.
And that'd be okay.
Yeah. to use, we brought up flat Earth, and I think it's because it's such a divisive topic. It's also a good example. So, you and I, not throwing you under the bus, this is just clear. You and I do believe that the Earth is not a spinning ball. I'm not saying it's flat as a pancake, because unfortunately that's the image people get, or a frisbee or whatever. I mean, it has geography or topography.
Mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, it has mountains and has high
Topography.
Yeah, thank you.
You're so cute.
Thank you. I appreciate you thinking so. It's not a frisbee. It's not flat as a pancake, but it's not a spinning ball hurtling through space at thousands, millions of miles an hour or whatever, tilted on an axis. In my opinion, exactly. But I used to believe it was, because I never thought to even question it. So when it came up that people actually believe this, I just thought it was ridiculous and wanted to look at it and find out. And I ended up being convinced by the evidence. There's a lot of it out there, but it seems like people aren't even willing to look at it. But either way, I am totally fine if people don't believe it. Glenn doesn't believe it, and that's fine. Doesn't change our relationship one bit. He might think I'm a loony. I don't think he's a loony, because I once believed the same thing he believes. So it doesn't change our relationship one iota at all. And I'm okay with it. But a lot of people aren't. In fact, some people, if you tell them you believe the world is flat, you're labeled. You're labeled for sure, and you're put in the category of being a moron. And at first, that really surprised me, because I had people that were close friends and family of mine, and just even wanting to talk about it. This before I even believed it, just saying, "Hey guys, did you hear that there are people out there that believe there's flat? What do you think?" "Oh, they're idiots. They're morons. They're complete and total stoopies. Don't they science?" Okay. I don't get it. I can believe what I want to believe. How does it affect you? I mean, you can think I'm a moron and an idiot, and that's fine. And that's true about anything. It's true about doctrine. Now, doctrine's a little bit different, because there are people that they see other people headed in what they would consider the wrong direction, which means in many cases going to hell and spending eternity separated from God. So that's a little different, in my opinion, for some than flat Earth or other topics. But still, to allow what someone else believes to affect you, I don't understand how you can put energy into that. So my point is, if someone disagrees with you, then what, other than ego or pride, as you pointed out, Jen, pride, what reason would there be to put them in the category of those who don't agree with me? Why would you need to bring someone else down for what they believe? That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I was going to say that the stupid thing regarding flat Earth is also a broad brush and a label.
Yeah.
But, I've seen people from this end doing the same thing to people that still believe in the globe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
People from any camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not saying it's just globe believers that are insulting flat earthers. No. I have been in the chat rooms, the flat earth chat rooms, where someone comes in, even just asking questions, like trying to figure it out, and they eat them alive. Yeah. Eat them alive. Oh, globe, you're a globe head. Oh, you're
you're a globey.
Globey. Have you looked at the evidence? And
do you have two eyes?
Yeah. Use your own senses, man. Just go out and look at the surface of the water. The term is water level. No, that's not it. What's the term for? Help me out, babe. I just lost it. Water, the level of the water. It's
sea level.
Sea level. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. Sea level. It's not sea radius. It's sea. Sea radius.
Sea curve, not ski.
Sea curve. Yeah. Sea curve. You use your senses, man. Look around. Go in an airplane and look out at how level everything is. There's no curve unless you're in the newer planes, which have fisheye lens on the corners, so you have to look directly through the middle of the window. But even those are sometimes messed with to give the impression of it being a curve. But generally, your senses show you if you're paying attention. So people use that to insult others. Like, come on, man. So there's plenty of that going on both sides. So
Yeah.
it's a good example.
And if anybody is wanting someone to listen or discuss or understand or believe something they believe or see their perspective, like, I'm sorry, insulting other people is not going to do it. It's just never going to work. I mean, have you ever seen somebody be insulted and be like, oh, wow, tell me more?
Yeah.
Maybe sarcastically.
Yeah, sarcastically. I want to know more about that. Thank you for calling me an idiot and moron. My ears are perking up. Please show me all the evidence. Yeah. C-curve. That's right. More than a flame.
That was funny.
C-curve. That was fun. I think we're very funny, Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may be just the two of us. I think that.
Slapstick comedy team in black and white.
Yes. In case you didn't hear me, I said hello, Torben, and also say hello to G Loves Jesus. We're glad that you're here. Again, whatever time you come in, that's fine with us. So thanks for coming by. And Gia says that's why talk is cheap, action is everything. Okay.
Amen.
Yeah. In my relationship with Jen, it was always important to me from the beginning not to just tell her I love her and tell her nice things about herself, but to back it up with proof, with evidence. I think that's part of being authentic too. You're not just putting words out there and expecting another person to believe it. In my opinion, you're daily showing them. It's action and working through it together, whatever comes up. And not just being words. It's easy for anybody to say, yeah, I'm a great guy. Just believe me.
That's your Paula.
No. I must know Jen's secret of the honking clown horn.
It's my circus shtick. That one's for Lon, if he's still listening.
Yeah. Yeah, he's listening. I think he made a comment here recently.
Someone in high school taught me how to do it.
That's all.
But I honk my nose when I do it, but the noise comes out of my mouth.
Oh, cool. Well, I've seen you do it, so
I appreciate you acting like it's the first time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because this is more radio than TV, so nobody can see what you're doing. Yeah. So
where's my little slide whistle? That's what I need.
Glenn says, wow, highlight of the evening.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of highlights, Glenn. Come on.
Yes, sir. I haven't heard Glenn's voice. Are you in the bathroom, sir?
No. I was just trying to get an answer to the question before you got to me.
Oh, cool.
Do you
have it?
Yeah. Do.
All right. Go ahead, sir. Do I need to read the question again, or are you good?
Nope. I've got it on the screen. I'm the producer, man.
All right.
Okay.
Idiot.
See, this is Jen. You've got to be careful of him.
No, I thought you should have called me an idiot. That would fit right into the.
No, I can't do that to an American. They get too upset.
Hey, you called me that before.
Yeah.
I've called you worse than that, Jen.
True.
Yeah, true. Okay. I think you can use it either way, to be honest. Okay, this is how I distinguish. If we'll use an example. Say you Crips had an objective that you get me to swing around to your way of thinking and believing God. If you come to the relationship with an agenda or an objective, I think that's where it makes the difference, because you're not really being authentic. You've got an agenda. If you bring your arguments or thoughts, etc., and put them on the table, I think that is different from you manipulating a situation to try to get someone into the vein of thinking in the way you think. I think that's what distinguishes this, and that's those who agree with me are fine. Those who don't agree with me are going down. That's the agenda you're bringing, because people get so focused on turning others around, they lose sight of the fact that they're going to be turned off by it. I mean, there's nothing worse than being preached at and made to feel, hey, this person's coming at me with all this stuff. All they want me to do is be like them. Well, why would someone not react? I would, certainly. I'd just say get lost, or probably words worse than that. So there you have it.
All right. Awesome. I'm being slandered in the chat. It's by Nathan though, so I don't take any offense to it.
Oh, Nathan's allowed. He's and Kiwis are pretty close.
Yeah, he says he's heard me call Globe people ignorant, which I have not done. We had an email exchange back and forth about flat Earth stuff, and I presented what I believe to be true, and he sent me a lot of videos of science, physics stuff, which were very beneficial. I watched them all and take it on board, just like I would any subject. But I'm fully persuaded by the evidence that I've seen. I have actually, ignorant is not necessarily a bad term. It seems like people are offended by it. So it's calling people stupid and morons. So that's a completely different situation, calling someone ignorant. It's just they're unwilling to look at the information, generally speaking. But still, in this whole idea of labels, I shouldn't even be calling people ignorant. So if I have said that, of course, I say tongue in cheek, show me the evidence that I've said it, because all our exchanges are by email. So you would easily be able to pull up the email where I said several times that someone was a Globe person was ignorant. I don't speak like that. So anyway, next question. Has anybody using these words considered the potential effect it might have on another? The isolation, the vulnerability, the lack of acknowledgement. Has anybody using these words considered the potential effect it might have on another? The isolation, the vulnerability, the lack of acknowledgement. Hello to Annette. She just popped in, and Talking Doctrine says that she's saying good night. So good night to you. Thanks for stopping by. And she also says it's a boy. So congratulations. It's a boy. Do you want a boy or a girl first? Does it make any difference to you?
Me?
Yeah.
I want a little girl, but if we have a little boy, I'll be just as ecstatic.
I want you to have a little girl.
Yeah, twins run in our family, so that would be fun.
We could have a boy and a girl.
Yeah. All right, back to the topic.
Okay.
This is the Jen and Grips love show.
Oh, come on. We haven't done it too much this episode. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a giddy husband. You got to give me a little bit. Okay.
Oh man, I love you.
I love you too. Kiss,
Okay, stop. My face is so red. Holy crap. Oh man.
Anyway, hello to Annette. We're glad that you're here. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you. Do you want to answer this one first, Jen? Or do you want to kick it down the road?
Read it one more time.
Has anybody using these words considered the potential effect it might have on another? The isolation, the vulnerability, the lack of acknowledgement.
I hate to say this, but I think the times that I've considered the potential effect is after I've said things and there's been, some blowback. Not blowback, but like the story I told earlier about the girl from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's been done to me, which hasn't been super often, but it's happened, and the hurt that ensues, and then at least for me, I'm the type where when something hurts me, it gives me another facet of empathy for people that have been in that position. And almost automatically, I think, gosh, this must be what it feels like for other people who have been labeled or called something when by someone who doesn't know them, doesn't know anything about them, or hardly. So yeah, I've considered it, but a lot of times it's on the tail end of me putting my own foot in my mouth, or having it, someone else label me or say something bad about me, and me
sure.
overhearing it or finding out about it.
Well, I would imagine that there's not anybody that hasn't been labeled something by someone else.
Yeah.
We've all experienced that. And I'm also just as sure that we've probably labeled someone else. I mean, if not just when we were kids, maybe when we were less mature.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of adults that still are doing the label thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Oh, go ahead.
Well, also with the question, it says, has anybody using these words considered the potential effect? I think there are some people that really haven't. I don't think they do. I think there are people out there that just blatantly label people left and right and just don't think of other people.
Yeah.
And they don't care, unfortunately.
Right.
Not everyone, but there are some people out there that just really don't care.
Yeah.
They're just too wrapped up in their pride and ignorance, and just I didn't mean ignorance, arrogance was the word I wanted to use.
Yeah, I would say that if they did think about the effect that it had, the vulnerability, the lack of acknowledgement, isolation, if they did think about it, then they probably wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Unless they're just jerks. I mean, maybe if you thought about it and you didn't care and you just went ahead with the labeling anyway.
Yeah.
Then it makes you a jerk. So I think there's plenty of evidence to show that they don't think about it, or if they do, they're jerks and they move on with it anyway.
Yeah.
So there that is. How's
yes.
it?
Glenn?
Yep.
Did Glenn answer?
No, I didn't. I think it's just another way of what this show's about, is to hopefully promote thought about thinking about things before we speak. I think that's the real bottom line, is be aware of what you're saying, why you're saying it, and how it's going to come across to someone else at the end of the line. I think it's quite sad, really, just to see some of the way some of this transpires, because all it does, well, put it another way, have you ever known someone who's labelled in this, what I call, cruel way, to ever want to come back next week? Why would they?
Yeah, good point.
It's a total drive away.
Yeah. Yeah, we want people to come into the room, not drive them away.
Yeah. And I guess if you have people that are into cliques and excluding others, then this kind of behavior is fine, because they want it to be a them and us situation.
Right.
But someone who wants it to be unity, would put a little more thought in their delivery and how they say things and what they say.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you use the liberty, unity, charity. I mean, that's the creed that many say that they're following, but the evidence doesn't seem to show that. And the use of labels, to me, is an example of that. So that fits right in the category in my mind. I would agree that they're not thinking about it. Again, if they did, there would be different evidence. There would be more of the acknowledging someone else, agreeing to disagree, and not having to tear another person down for not believing what you believe.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone answer that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this is the last one.
It is.
Well, good. We did good. We did good tonight, even with all the cutesy stuff. took up maybe 5 minutes. There should be more. Is it a case of end justifies the means? ? Or another way, do you have to be cruel to be kind? Maybe the labeler believes they are doing you a favor. Maybe you are just a number on a board. Maybe it's a label of love. I like that turn of a phrase. Maybe it's a label of love. What
Now,
do you think?
did Glenn mean that as in if someone is being cruel because they're trying to be kind, is it out of love?
Yeah,
Is
he's
that
asking. Yeah,
okay?
I think
Okay.
he's asking.
Yes.
Maybe you're just a number on a board. Maybe it's a label of love, which is labor of
Those are
love.
two different things, right?
You put a couple
Label of
different
love is
questions.
different. Okay, gotcha.
Couple
I just
different
didn't know if he was
questions.
trying
in
to
this
make
one.
the same point, but no, it's not.
I think generally he's making the same point, but he's just phrasing it a different way. Maybe you're just a number on a board. Maybe it's a label of love. In other words, the person would be doing it out of love for the person because, for instance, they care about their soul. Okay, so let's use, for example, that this is a believer. They see someone else believing a false doctrine, for instance, and they care about the person. So under that guise, they're labeling them to wake them up and get them to look at what they believe, maybe.
Yeah.
So in that case, then can it be called love if it's used in that way? I'm not saying
I
that's
think someone could think they're being loving
sure.
when they're being cruel.
Sure.
I just thought I might be getting off the question a little bit, but I was just thinking if someone's coming from a place of needing everyone to agree with them in order to feel steady or firmly rooted in something, and they're mocking or labeling someone else, maybe they're assuming that the people they're labeling are just as shaky in their foundation because someone else isn't agreeing with them. Like a tug of war kind of thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Anyway, back to the question. I just was a thought that popped in my head.
Oh, no, that's fine.
What say you, Crips?
Yeah, I think that some people use labels out of love. I think they would fit in the category of the above question of either not thinking about it or deciding that it's so important. Like in the example that I used, if you're worried about someone's eternal soul, so you're labeling them. Let's say you're labeling them Lordship, and you're saying, "Oh, you believe works," and that doesn't save. So you're using a label because you care about the person's soul and you're doing it because you love them. Not saying it's right, but I'm saying that's a little bit different than some other labels. You're caring about someone. But you could it's not a better example, but like if someone says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" and you love them and you're wanting to be honest with them and you're saying, "Yes, you do," or "You look fat in that suit." Let's not be sexist here. You love them, you don't want to lie to them, so you're being brutally honest, but you're not caring about their feelings either. See, I would go up to the other question and say there's a way to constructively be honest with someone without hurting their feelings. That's what I would.
Yeah, that's true.
To me, it doesn't matter. You can love someone and still be constructive about the way you talk to a person, I think, without using labels. Can you get the same point across without using labels? Out of love, caring for someone and not wanting them to go to hell or be separated eternally from God. Can you use love as a tool more than labels? I think the answer to that is yes. I think you can still care about a person's soul and you can still love them and present it in a way that's kinder and less hurtful. I mean, the argument would be, don't care about whether their feelings are hurt because I care about their soul. What are you thanking me for?
Oh, saying that I chew beautifully or wonderfully or
Oh yeah, you
I was a little late.
no, I like Paul's comment because she's generally true. I mean, when you're with someone long enough, I've told you this. In fact, in relationships, it seems like the longer you're with a person, the same things that you thought were adorable at the beginning end up irritating you. Of course, you say that'll never happen.
I say that?
Yeah, you said that'll never happen. I said, I said
I was
that.
lying.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'll irritate you. Something I do will irritate you.
You ask me sometimes, is this getting irritating yet? And I'm like, yeah.
Paula is calling me to task on my comment. Paula says, "Do tell Jason, how can you gently honest if your mate asks you if they look fat or whatever, and they do." I've got an answer for you, Paula. I would go pick out a different dress and say they look better in that one.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yep. So I wouldn't even answer the question. I would think of a dress that they look better in, and because of who I am, I would probably know a dress that they look better in. I would say, "Hey, babe, I love that color on you, but I really like the green one better. Why don't you try that one on?"
Aw,
Ah,
that's so sweet. I don't know if I would ever ask you that if I looked fat in something,
well, I
because
don't think you.
I think I would know if I looked fat in something and just wouldn't wear it.
I do too. But it's an example that comes up a lot, so
That's true.
that's why I used it. But the other thing is too, I tell you all the time how beautiful you are, and I think that you believe me. So I don't think you have to ask if a dress makes you look a certain way. I would say that's just maybe just from my perspective.
We got two different discussions going on here. This is awesome.
Well,
fat is the label.
yeah, it is. It is, and it's not a fun one. I've struggled with my weight, and more so in the past than now. I mean, I'm still got a ways to go, but I used to really, I had a thin skin about labels because it wasn't just fat. People have too big of a guy for people to dare come out and just call me fat. But they use different terms like, "Hey, big guy. Ooh, how you doing, big guy?" And
Jeez.
or call me John Candy. Probably people don't remember who that is, or some people might, but a real big actor. I don't think I look anything like John Candy. So to me, it was just a size reference, nothing more.
Yeah.
And I would tell people, I would say, I don't appreciate the term big guy. And then it's, "Why you get so offended? Gosh, I'm not trying to, look, I had an issue with it, and I didn't appreciate people using those terms. And I didn't stuff it. I didn't get angry about it internally and not share it. I shared it. I'm over it now. I mean, people can call me a big guy if they want to. It doesn't offend me. That's fine. I just still think it's a label. Fat, big guy, big girl, or comparing people to large actresses that are popular or whatever. Actors or actresses. What's that?
I was going to say, or fruit. Large fruit.
Large fruit?
It's just a random thought. I don't know. When you were stalling on what you're going to say, you're like large, and it kind of went silent for a second. I was going to say fruit.
Okay. Yeah, you look like a watermelon.
Uh-oh.
Large fruit.
I think Glenn thinks I'm drunk.
Oh, yeah?
I'm still on keto, Glenn. No, not on wine.
Okay, so did I answer the question? Ends, okay, could be, I think I did. The end, it could be an ends justify the means, and I gave an example of a couple examples there of how you could do it better. I think ultimately it could be in the person's mind out of love, but to me, again, it goes back to the thing I said earlier. If a person's offended by it, to me, it doesn't matter how much you love them. I think that can be done in a way that's not offensive to the person. All I know is that if I'm unintentionally offensive and they bring it to my attention, I'm going to be the person that wants to do it differently. I'll take responsibility and apologize and try to avoid that in the future. So there you go.
Yeah.
What do you
think?
think?
That's a good response.
Thank you. What do you think, Glenn?
I think I'll use Janet as an example because she's formed a big part of the write-up.
Mm-hmm.
And go back to the start when I first connected with her. And as you know, she and I talk quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And right at the start, she said, "I tune into these channels and just listen to what they say about me." And what I heard continuously was, "I love you, Janet, but you are going to hell," repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, obviously, they're saying, "Well, we're saying you're going to hell out of love, and hopefully you'll come around and get saved, etc." The way that we are. Of course, my question to her was, "How does that make you feel?"
Right.
Well, I mean, pretty obvious question. She said something like, "Terrible. All I wanted was to be acknowledged for, as per she said, just acknowledged as a person." And obviously that had such a huge influence. I mean, trying to correlate love and you are going to hell just didn't work for her. She knows why it's said, but she said, why do they have to say "I love you" first? Why can't they just say "you're going to hell" and get on with it? It's almost like you're making an excuse for telling me, or a rationale for telling me I'm going to hell, and I'm wrapping it up with love. I mean, so you can see here there's a conflict in her mind, is that love does not equate to being told I'm going to hell. Love equates to, I acknowledge your views. What on earth is going on
What's that?
in your background? There's this huge noise. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
I was going to cough, so I turned my mic on, and sometimes when I turn it back on, it makes a noise. So my apologies. I
Okay.
thought you'd probably prefer not to hear me cough into the mic rather than have my mic go back on.
Okay, so I was just go through the point was that whilst one person sees it as love, from one end, the recipient see it like that necessarily at all. So I think it needs to be a bit more discernment about the way that things are expressed, and you could get a much better result.
I completely agree. I mean, it goes back to, why would anyone listen to you if you use that approach? If you're wanting someone to listen to what you're saying and you do really honestly care about their soul, wouldn't you do better to express the love first before the opinion? Like, if your opinion is indeed that someone's going to hell, unless you're just not willing to put the time in, and I would say that goes against what the Bible would say. The Bible would say, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel." Again, as I said earlier, be salt and light to the world. And I don't see any example in Scripture where the people that Jesus talked to, I mean, he was honest with them. I mean, like the woman at the well, she was honest with him too. And she said, "Yeah, I don't have a husband." He said, "You speak truthfully. In fact, you've had 6 husbands," or whatever the number is. He didn't say, "You're a whore." He didn't say, "I love you, but you're a whore." So if you're using Jesus as an example, it is being honest, but even in a short period of time, he showed love to the person. He didn't just start out with insults. So I completely agree, Glenn, both with the way you characterized Janet, the question you asked Janet. I would say that there is a better way. On the first show that we did, we asked the question, "Is there a better way?" And I would say that for all these shows, that is always a question in the background: is there a better way? I'm not saying that I know the better way. It's just discussing it and talking about it. The possibilities of, is there a better way? A better way, in my opinion, in that scenario would be, again, to show the person love first. And then, presenting the other things too. If you're really that concerned that they're believing a false doctrine or believing something that's going to send them to hell. But I would say definitely that sounds horrible to preface like, "I love you, but you're going to hell." I think that's a horrible way to frame it. Those two things seem mutually exclusive to the person that's hearing the words. So, I mean, if you really care that much about me, then I want to see the love. I want to see the love up front. Again, it's what Gia said earlier: actions rather than words. I'm paraphrasing what she said, but I agree with that. So, where's the action that backs up the words? So, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Cripps, can I answer one from Adiaphora, please? Is that the correct
Of
pronunciation?
course.
Sure. But I'll read it.
Okay.
I think I'm well qualified to answer this one. If your spouse had a traumatic experience being 2 years and is still depressed, gaining weight, and is being a weight on you, how would you address? Well, I'm in this very situation. My lovely wife, Sandra, had a catastrophic stroke 11 years ago. She's on an incredible amount of weight. Her self-esteem is shot. She's dependent on me to do many things for her. I'm her carer. I mean, it's virtually addressing this is virtually impossible. It's hardly a win situation. To be honest with you, it affects me in many ways, and obviously different ways than it affects her, because I have to do a whole lot of stuff I didn't have to do before. How do I address it? Oh man, you got to just do the best you can, and sometimes it's damn hard because sometimes you just cannot be Mr. 100% empathic, wonderful. Sometimes you just to be human, and you've got to let out the fact that this is incredibly frustrating. But at the same time, you need to show that the person that you don't love them less. It's nothing to do with loving less. It's just an unfortunate set of circumstances that have been presented to you, and you have two options. You either work through it or you quit. Simple as that. And you just have to find a way to do it. Some people can do it. Some people can't. I would never for 1 minute suggest that anyone who can't is a failure, because I know how tough it is, and it is incredibly tough. Yeah. So if you are in that situation, my heart goes out to you, because I feel it for you for sure, 100%. It's tough.
Thanks, Glenn, for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Great. I mean, the situation isn't great, but I'm glad you were able to answer it from experience, and hope that was helpful for the coworker. Did everyone get a chance to answer? I think we got through all the questions. Yep, I sure did.
This is a great discussion.
It is. It is. I would like to read this comment one more time, just to put a finer cap on this before we say goodnight. And we can talk more if you guys like, but I'll just finish the description part. And this is abridged. If they think I am trusting on my works instead of grace, and they still treat me with respect, it is not a big deal. I just believe we disagree on interpretation, and that they do not understand my life. Maybe my words are not clear, or they think I am not able to see my own life as clear as they do. But if and when I hear LS are proud, fearful idiots, believing XYZ, trying XYZ, motivated by XYZ, you get the picture. Only God knows if someone will end up in hell. It's not a vicious anger toward them, but a frustration to want to be considered as a sister who can be united with them. God hates discord, so the Holy Spirit in me feels grieved when I experience this false representation. Spirit in me wants togetherness, and when I am spoken of as an evil works bastard, well, it does not give me warm fuzzies. So thank you, Janet, for those comments. Thank you, Glenn, for putting them together for us so we could have this discussion. I feel like the questions were really good.
Yeah, really were.
I feel like even though we're not telling people how to think, we're just talking and discussing and presenting opinions. I think there were some good ones presented tonight. Also believe that in the chat, there's as always, a lot of good questions. And if you made a comment that I did not see and did not include you, please forgive me. I do try to. We all three look at the chat and try to answer anything anyone puts up there that wants read. So, and we'll get better and better at that as we continue on. So thanks for that. Okay, so do you guys have anything else that you want to say or discuss before we say goodnight to everyone? No?
Wait, you mean the chat? Us?
On the panel, anyone have any comments that you want to make before we say goodnight?
No, I just want to say thanks to the chat for bringing up stuff and asking questions and just being a part of the discussion. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just I'll agree with that and say that you guys are the main reason why we're here to have these discussions. And the idea of TSL has always been to invite everyone in, and even from the beginning to not be saying, "Oh, you got to believe this or believe that." In fact, by having different beliefs, even on the panel, I hope that we're showing that we can agree to disagree and still get along very, very well. I believe that there's a genuine, authentic love for each other, despite things that we disagree on. I also would say there's a lot more we agree on than disagree, but still. And hopefully it's an example for people that is action rather than just words. We want to always express that to everyone, no matter what topic we're discussing. Because it is not something I see everywhere out there, at least on YouTube. It is something that I would like to see. And in a lot of cases, it's even just from a human perspective, not just from a quote unquote believing perspective. I think it's a real problem in the grace community right now, from what I've seen, with all the labeling, all the infighting and backbiting and name calling and the marking but not avoiding. It's just a huge problem, and I am glad that I'm not a part of it, and I can't be responsible for anyone else. I truly know that I'm only responsible for myself, and I am not proud of all the stuff that has gone on. I don't want to be a part of it. So hopefully this has been good for everyone, and I'll just say again, thank you for everyone that has taken time out of your Sunday to join us for tonight's broadcast. I'll also say John Dons is a dear friend that I've known for a very long time. And John, I was joking earlier, I do have stories about you, but you have all permissions to tell Jen any story that you want to tell. I'm an open book, and I'm sure I haven't told her every story. You may remember one that I haven't told her. But I'm not hiding anything from her, especially so. And I'm glad you came by too. Glad everyone came by. Okay, so before we close things up, I'll read this again for next week. This leads to now a quick synopsis of next week's show, Doubt versus Decision. Please check out the song and the lyrics, May the Joy of Pop Ring Loudly, and it's included in the links in the description. You can check that out and prepare for next week. Breathe a sigh of relief. We're not touching the fiery topic of doctrine, land, doubt. Instead, we're visiting life and the results that come from when, as the lyrics say, I am only sure that I am not sure. Are life relationships artificially sweet? If so, why? What is possible? What is real? What is true? And what is illusion? All right, so next week's Doubt versus Decision. And I hope everyone that can join will join. As I said before, even if you're late, no problems whatsoever. We're just glad that you came by, and we'll enjoy our time together, whatever that may be. So thank you very much. So let's start with Glenn. Glenn, say goodbye to the people, sir.
Sorry about that. Yeah, good night. I thought it went very well. Just Paula said, I'll be praying for you, Glenn. And as you and Crips and Jen would know, I don't mind that at all. I will graciously and gratefully accept anything that you would do for me.
Wonderful.
So,
Lovely.
good night, all. Yeah, great. Look forward to next week.
Me too. I really am enjoying this. I mean, it's really been great. We've had the 2 official shows, and then we had the kind of introductory show, which all were wonderful. I even enjoyed the first test show. The second one got kind of messed up with the sound and stuff, but the first one was good. Jen, say goodbye to the peoples, my lady.
Good night, peoples. Thanks for stomaching our lovely love, I guess. Like, what's the
Oh,
word?
lovely love.
We really appreciate you guys. Love your friendship. Love your contributions to the discussion. We just really appreciate y'all's openness to share, whether it's opinions or personal things that have happened in your life that kind of go along with the topic. And we just really appreciate you guys being here. And like I said, being a part of the discussion. That's just awesome. And we don't take it lightly. We're just really glad that it's not just the three of us chatting with nobody to bounce ideas off of and just discuss and laugh at
Absolutely.
us. We appreciate you guys laughing at us. That's great.
Yeah,
Night
we don't.
peoples.
Yeah, there you go. We don't mind being laughed at. We try to have
No.
a good sense of humor about things. So, also, just really quickly, if anyone hasn't had a chance to go over and watch Fisherman in a Box, if you're interested in truth or stuff and the Bible and being a believer and things like that, please go over and do that. Also, Talking Doctrine, if you're interested in that sort of thing. We have Mondays Meet. If you want to come over and listen to that, then you're more than welcome. And also, More Than a Flame has a channel as well. Also, kind of a spiritual nature and truther stuff. And as far as channels go, that's the only ones that I know for sure have a channel. I'd be more than happy to direct. If other people come in with a channel, more than happy to direct people over there. Knowing that we here on TSL we're independent. We don't always sanction everything that other channels go on, but we certainly, at least for me, I'm willing to tell people about it, especially when they tell other people about our channel, and that has been the case. So thank you guys for doing that. All right.
I wanted to say a quick thank you again to Glenn for the write-ups.
Yeah.
Glenn, you do such a fantastic job. Nathan pointed out all the work that you put into it and the time and heart. I mean, you're a really wonderful question asker and comer upper wither. That's not a word.
It works. It works, actually.
And it's one of the things I've loved about you and having a friendship with you. You help my brain think outside the box. And I love to think and I love to ponder and wonder about things. So, and just see things from different perspectives, and your friendship's just been very beneficial with that. So I appreciate it. And I'm just so glad that there are other people that get to benefit from your thoughts and just questions. So thanks, Glenn.
Lovely. Yeah, I would say ditto on that. So there's let's see, that was show number 2. So there's 2 more shows that Glenn has planned, and then we'll tell you what the plan is, who's going to do the write-ups. If it's going to be Jen and I both working on the next few together, we'll probably help each other anyway. So, but we'll tell you what the topics are coming up. We have a lot of things planned for you guys, and we couldn't do it without you either. So again, thanks for coming by. We appreciate you so much. All right, that's it for us. So we hope everyone that celebrates Thanksgiving. Oh, I just noticed Alex came in, and I hadn't seen him earlier. So hello and goodbye, Alex.
Yes. Alex.
Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate everyone that stops by. Okay, so by the way, if you have any comments about the show, of course, we always want you to feel free to say it in the chat. But if you'd rather send an email, you can send me an email at truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. And if you send an email to that and don't specify that it's not for me, if it's for the group of us, then I will read it. But if you wanted to send an email to me and address it to Glenn or to Jen, please put in the subject bar that it is to be forwarded to them. I'll be more than happy to do that. Of course, each one of you could put it in the chat if you want to do that. But if not, that's a good way to get something to them if you want. So yeah, that's it. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. Tonight's topic on True Story Live has been Discernment versus Arrogance, another brick in the wall. Please check out the links in the description and listen to the song and read the lyrics. And we'll be back again next week with another show for you guys. Until then, good night and God bless. Thanks for joining.